What was supposed to be a big recruiting weekend may have fizzled a little bit because of some players committing elsewhere and canceling visits as well. We talk about the big weekend ahead with 6 players listed to be on campus this week with our buddy Rob Williams from Inside the Gamecocks. We talk about all of it next on Locked On Gamecocks.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? I'm Chris Marler, host of the Locked On Gamecocks podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in America. We have you to thank for that. We have America to thank for this Friday because it is the official start of the World Cup, and I'm fired up. USA plays tonight against Paraguay, but we are not here to talk about USA-Paraguay soccer. We're here to talk about South Carolina football and football recruiting specifically. We're going to be joined by a very special guest, Rob Williams from Inside the Gamecocks. We had him on a couple weeks ago. The plan is to have him on every Thursday to preview the weekend and the big weekends that are coming up for official visits on campus at South Carolina. We talked about how big the month of June is for this program, but after a slow start last week where you had 9 players on campus, 5 already committed, but this week you're supposed to have now 6 players on campus, next week 5. How many of those players can you legitimately close with people canceling visits coming up, including Trey Segura, the running back, KJ Green, the 5-star edge that committed to LSU last week? I don't think the sky is falling, but we're going to talk about it with somebody that knows a little bit more behind the scenes than most, Rob Williams. Man, I was so excited to have Rob on the show. We talked about this. Now, granted, because my ADD and just stuff that came up, we didn't get to officially do the Thursday night show last week. We talked about doing this every Thursday before the weekends of June because it's a big month for official visits. So we're happy to have you on, Rob. I feel like it's like a lackluster weekend, though. Like, I mean, it's not since you're here, but with what's going on campus, kind of walk us or kind of get into what's going on this weekend in campus versus what was supposed to happen with the recruiting weekend.
Yeah, it's a little sneaky, I would say, in terms of what's going on. You know, last weekend, I'll start there. Last weekend, a majority of the group were already committed. So you only had a few names there that could be commits to South Carolina. I think they had a good weekend.
Yeah.
You also have to keep in mind that while these official visits are happening, and you kind of sometimes you'll like pop one in the middle of the week or whatever, but Shane Beamer camps are happening as well. So we're continuing to see, in terms of just action around the building and recruiting in general, you're continuing to see offers go out. Some kids that are, or young men, I should say, that are gaining offers that are in this 2027 class.
Yeah.
So right here coming up, and then you kind of get a look, Chris, a little bit down the road at what some of these up and coming stars are going to look like. 2029 is definitely, we talked a lot about the year of the running back in the state of South Carolina is 2027. It's a loaded year at that position between Segura and Aiden Gibson. Trenton Lynch at Spartanburg is committed to Rutgers. Let's see, who am I missing? Ty Phillips at Irmo just committed to Alabama last week.
Right.
So Calvin Wofford at Crestwood's committed to Charlotte. It's a pretty deep group across the state, but then 2029 is the next group that's coming up, and 2 like premier backs in the state, Carter Nash at Dorman, Braden Bolts at Crestwood, both 2029 prospects got offers earlier this week. So just something that, obviously official visit weekends are big in the here and now, but as you're looking out across the landscape, Braden Bolts is a 2029 running back, Chris, who has offers from you name it.
Yeah.
He's got 36 offers. And so, I mean, it's every premier SEC program, Notre Dame, Ohio State, you got it. So it's right down the road in Sumter, something to pay attention to and watch, I think, as well. But in terms of official visitors, you got 4 this weekend. It's sneaky. So I can run through the 4. I'll just give you a brief overview, and then you can kind of pick my brain there as you kind of see them. 4-star edge, 6'4", 230, Chris Whitehead out of Chesterfield, Virginia. I think it's a Virginia Tech thing here, Chris.
Yeah.
It's kind of the home team for him. But it is, the edge position's been interesting. Let's start there. It's been interesting, because they are. When I say they, I mean the staff of South Carolina. They're shooting pretty high, so a lot of what they're going for, and a lot of the guys that they're going after have been top level prospects.
Right.
And that's what happens, I think, when you feel like you can recruit at that level. And I think that they can. It's not, this is not a money issue necessarily, and it's definitely not a relationship building issue in terms of pure recruiting ability. But when you're shooting at the top of what's there, then that's what's going to kind of happen. So they're going to go for it on Chris Whitehead. I believe he's the number, Rivals has him as the number 8 edge in the country, number 1 player in the state of Virginia. Then also Antoine McCoy is St. Paul's, North Carolina, defensive tackle, 6'2", 310. This is a kid where I think it's a South Carolina-Georgia battle. Okay. We'll see which way it goes. There are some voices at Rivals that would say South Carolina is leading in this battle. I've been told recently that it's probably a Georgia edge. Georgia has a little bit of an advantage here, so we'll see what happens with McCoy, but I think they're definitely in it there. Offensive tackle Clayton Lee, 6'7", 305. This one appears to be a UCF South Carolina deal. So 3-star
best profile pick out of anybody in the class,
no doubt about it. And this, I think, when you look at it, this kind of 3-star level tackle, has become the bread and butter for what Clements wants to do,
right?
And Jason Smith. And I've been on campus and watched these guys coach over the course of the spring and here in early summer, and it's dynamic. It is different. It's different. Jason Smith, who played for Clements at Baylor, was the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft, is here as the assistant O-line coach. And this guy is a ball of energy. You hear him from a long way away. He coaches the guys hard, but it's very, very detailed. Very, I'm going to push you, but I've also got my arm around you style of coaching. You can see that the technical pieces that they're both implementing when coaching the guys up is very detail oriented. And I love the style, and it is high energy. It's very dynamic. It's a little different than what's been seen around this program in recent years, but the style they're going for, Chris, is not the blue chippers necessarily, but there's a certain body type. And I talked about this on here before, tenacity and an attitude that you need to play at the offensive line position. So we'll kind of see what develops there with Clayton Lee, but all accounts would indicate that he kind of fits that mold. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, is Amare Patterson, who canceled a Florida visit to reschedule and be at South Carolina. Number 7 player in the state, top 50 receiver in the country out of Bluffton. He's 6 foot, 187 pounds, a 4-star receiver prospect. This one, I think it has shifted a little bit, where I would have said South Carolina probably out of it, but going to still get him in. I think there's a little bit of change, and he is already on campus.
And it's his birthday.
So, exactly. So this commitment is coming up. It's next Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So not a lot happening for Patterson in between the visit and the commitment. I'm not saying read between the lines on that, because I don't have any intel that necessarily that points directly to him making a commitment to South Carolina. But we know historically, if you have the last visit, that does put you in an advantageous position. So they'll get to shoot their shot with him for sure.
Yeah, no, that part's good too. I think it's so easy to look at the negatives of who you're missing out on.
Right. And there was a lot of guys who were scheduled that have committed elsewhere. KJ Green obviously just committed to LSU, kind of replacing Jaden Bryant for them. We know what
Cigar is going to do, the running back, which sucks. I mean, that's like that's, I think, and having the weird little unique back behind the scenes thing over here, where it's like we've catch up with the Trey Segura thing. I think for a while, wasn't Rutgers one of the bigger players in that recruitment as well, which is like, I don't know what was going on at Rutgers, but they have been involved.
Gibson. They were second for Aiden Gibson.
Okay. Well, and so but they also got the kid out, you said, out of somewhere earlier in South Carolina. And so it's like they've been in a weird amount of back and forth to South Carolina. The LSU part of this, where I thought Segura was a guy that early on I thought there was going to be a really like it felt like that it was South Carolina's to lose, I think, just from what you heard. And maybe I was just way wrong about that. Maybe it was all surface level stuff from like the internet, which is always pretty dangerous and to put your eggs in that basket. But to have LSU for whatever reason is like involved in so many of these back and forths. You got Jaden Bryant, and then Bryant decommits from there and goes to Miami. And I'm over here kind of like laughing, like, all right, good. At least he's not going to LSU, a kid out of Irmo and stuff like that. And then hours later, they get KJ Green in the fold. Now KJ Green cancels his visit. And it just feels like you kind of had this like almost whack-a-mole thing that's happening where it's like one thing happens, then you got it, like you finally get that covered up, and then something else pops up. And it's just been frustrating, I think, especially at the edge rush position specifically, because it's like they have really, really tried to go out of their way, I think, to aim high here, which I think is great. I think they are a program that should do that. And they've been able to show in recent years, hey, we can get really productive players at this position to play in this defense and get them to the league. For whatever reason, it's just been like a odd couple of misses, I think, in the early part of this recruitment stuff. But it doesn't feel like the sky is falling, right?
No, I don't think it feels like the sky is falling, and here's why. The Trey Cigar thing is interesting. I feel like I've been close to this one because I did live zoned for that school, where he is at Burns for 7 years, and kind of it was around the people that have coached him growing up and have been on that campus, that field so many times. I feel like it's almost a second home to me. Not technically my hometown, but probably the town where I've spent the most time, other than birth to 18 growing up. Right. So, I've been able to watch it and monitor it. You're right. South Carolina was really in it. I think it was South Carolina-Tennessee battle for the most part over the time. Tennessee was the first school to really get in on him, and I think that carried a lot of weight throughout the process. Yes, now LSU enters the chat there. So, but here's what I would say, and this is not just a Trey Cigar thing, but this is what I'm picking up on from recruiting. Standing on the field talking to assistant coaches, week in and week out. The narrative that South Carolina's coaching staff is not going to be there in 2027 is the number one selling point for other schools. So the way that South Carolina stops the bleeding and gets back in on this, Chris, as we don't have National Signing Day until December, is win this fall, and that flips a lot of this conversation. And I think that's why, for me, it doesn't look great right now, but that's why I would say, hey, the sky's not falling. Because we saw this, J.C. Sherbert pointed this out, and I think this is a great point. But like we saw this with Florida a couple of years ago, where they felt there was going to be a coaching change. Yeah, and then they ended up winning a little bit at the end of the year, and all the recruits came flooding back in. And what does that tell you? They wanted to go to a certain place, but they didn't think that the coaching staff was going to be in place. So if South Carolina staff has under the table won these battles in recruiting, but the recruits have been sold, hey, they're not even going to be there, so it doesn't matter how much you like them. It doesn't matter that you think you're a good fit. It doesn't matter that you have a good relationship. You're not going to have that because the coaching staff is going to be gone. If they can prove that they're going to be there when in the fall, like actually on the field, and a lot of these, there's a chance that you get some of these guys back that South Carolina has been in the top 2 or 3 for, and then seemingly not been able to close.
That's a really good point. That makes it feel a lot better. And then it opens the eyes too. And it makes a lot of sense specifically with the LSU thing, because there's no way Lane Kiffin's going anywhere this year. Like he's not going anywhere at least this year, right? Like maybe something happens in the next couple of years and they, it sours and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, that's a really good point to the negative recruiting part of it too. When we come back, I do want to talk about some of the guys that are going to be on campus this week. If we expect any commits, where some other people stand. And I have a theory on Dobson I want to run by you as well, and we'll get you out of here after that. So real quick, we're going to take you out, bring you back in, and we're going to pay some bills here. First and foremost, guys, I am trying my hardest to show a little bit of restraint here. It's 11:36 p.m. or a.m. where I'm at right now. I would like to start drinking now because the World Cup starts today, and Team USA plays tonight at 8. So no place to do more of your World Cup business than at our friends at FanDuel. The biggest stage in the world, soccer, is here. Every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. I don't know if you've seen any of the content come in from some of these games, but it's been incredible. One goal can completely change the energy of every game, shift momentum, alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals mean more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. I tell you what, this game, I think we're on day 2 of the tournament since we're recording on Friday, but from the opening whistle to final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Go visit FanDuel.com right now to get started, and make sure you place your wager for Team USA tonight. All right, we'll be right back with more with our good buddy Rob Williams here from IGA. Not sure why we have music now playing with that little intro. And anyway, we're back. All right. So really good insight, dude, from the first part of this and talking about like the negative recruitment, especially. I've looked at this and I know the weekend, like, what you said about the offensive line stuff, I've kind of thrown that into like a little bin of I'm not worried about it. And partially it's because it's like they've been so bad. It's going to be very hard for me to be like, oh my God, they're going to turn this thing around because they got all these 3 stars or got these 4, even if they got a bunch of 5 stars, to be like, all right, well, I mean, it'd still be hard at that position to keep those kids on campus for a longer period of time just because of the way the NIL stuff works now. I have said this all along, and speaking of the NIL stuff, that I feel really strong about this, right? Next week, you're supposed to have now 4 players because Cigar, he canceled his visit. And I don't know why I keep calling him Trey Cigar and not David Cigar. But
It's
anyway.
Trey, you're right.
I want to say David.
Because he's the 3rd. Unbelievable.
I just gaslit myself into thinking that I was wrong about that. That's a weak-minded individual there, Rob. But so you're gonna have 4 guys on for next week, and like we'll circle back to this week here in a second. But for next week, you got Davion Jones, the teammate of Josh Dobson, the safety that's playing the same secondary. Nate Carson, the kid from Irmo, who is apparently just stacked this year and has D1 talent everywhere. Yep. And then a kid from Hoover, Alabama, Spain Park, Marquise Evans, another edge rusher, 4-star recruit. Dobson is the headliner. I don't think that you ever have to be in a position, if you're Shane Beamer, to overpay for recruits, and it's very dangerous to do so. And one of the reasons why LSU, I can tell you this firsthand from some of the talks around this campus, one of the reasons why Dobson kind of fell out of favor with LSU is because there was a price that he had, and in their minds, it's like, hey, man, we're not going to be able to pay that price because, and same with Jaden Bryant, not that we don't have the money for it, but also because if you are here for 1 to 2 years and you're a premier player in the country, you deserve this amount of money that is slotted for most of those guys out of high school, right? And it's cheaper than the portal, but there's a very high risk that you're rolling the dice of if you pay someone. I'll give you a good example. The kid I always bring up from Alabama, who's out at Georgia Tech, who's like a 5-star athlete out of the state. And so Kalen DeBoer gets there. It's like, you got to give him the money. I can't remember his name now. He was number 9, I want to say. But he was like the number 12 overall player in the country. He was the number 1 athlete, I think, in the country and top player in the state, 5-star kid. And he was going to play defensive back. And they were like, all right, so they gave him $500,000. And he didn't play at all his first year. And then he comes out his second year. He's doing a podcast, by the way, for NIL money with Ryan Williams. And Ole Miss offers him $1 million. And they're like, man, you haven't played. So Bama matches it. He comes back. Guess what? Barely played again. Now he's at Georgia Tech. And it's like, you've sunk like $1.5 million potentially into this kid who put up no production for you at all. That's a very risky play. But for someone like Dobson, you have all this money that's going to come free. And you can cut me off if you tell me if I'm crazy. But if Dylan Stewart, Lenore Sellers, Jacarius Peak, and Nick Harbor are all going to the NFL, you have all this NIL money that's coming free. You can go throw that at a player like that and run that risk. Do you think that is something that is or could be happening or is worth even doing?
First of all, Jalen Mbakwe, maybe? Is that what we're talking
yes. about? Yes. And also, just so our audience knows, because I know they're already thinking about this, I did not know the name, and I did not purposely avoid the name because I knew I would have pronounced it incorrectly. It's a good assumption, but that's not why I did it, I promise.
Secondly, I think South Carolina staff has made it abundantly clear they're not going to overpay for high school talent.
Right.
Now, so that shapes the narrative of this conversation, and I don't think they should, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And in terms of DBs, I would trust Torian Gray to develop anybody. He could develop me and turn me into a undrafted free agent. He can he can develop anything into
that's the confidence I need. I love
that. Into a high level prospect. So I do think that like going and grabbing somebody who maybe is not as highly touted and allowing your coach to do his work is more along the lines of what they've kind of slotted into doing. However, I think Josh Dobson is an extremely important piece. He's an extremely important it's momentum almost, but you can't stake, you can't put money into it for just to grab recruiting momentum.
No.
You know what I mean? So is there a world where you sell it on, hey, year 2, there's more money, a really Kirby model, like come out here and prove it, and then we're going to have this money freed up? I think that they can. I think that's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
To say that's not a bad pitch, because you're obviously up against A&M here.
Yeah.
But the things that look favorable for South Carolina is that he didn't commit while he was there. So he's keeping it open. He's at least keeping it open. And we also know that this doesn't always win out, but Davion Jones is his teammate.
Yeah.
And I think this is a South Carolina Clemson battle for Jones. So, and he's had a lot of great things to say. Davion Jones had really positive things to say about South Carolina being the new DBU and the development of Torian Gray, et cetera, et cetera. So can you use that momentum to grab Josh Dobson? Perhaps. I think he's a super important recruit. He's super important recruit, but I think that they have their heels dug in that you don't overpay.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the other thing with Dobson too that's so interesting is that, like, I mean, he fits the mold. He's 6'1", 185. He's got like the long arms. He's got all. I mean, like, he's physically he fits all the boxes that you have wanted. You talked about Clements like coming out and doing, like, you know, they want a certain type of body type. Like, that is Dobson, right? He's over 6'1". He's 100. He'll be 195 when he gets to college. He'll play at 195, most likely, or at least 190. So like that part. I think that's what's interesting, and there's like little smoke signals that kind of come out with all this stuff now. And this isn't anything negative about Josh Dobson. This is just the way football is now, and it's like exactly what would be happening if you and I were being recruited at the same time, or, you know, no, not the same time, because I'm significantly older than you, but like if we're being recruited, like, you have these conversations of, okay, well, if the money's not going to come from here, then where is it going to come from? And so I thought it was a bit of a smoke signal when Dobson goes, I'm no longer interested in LSU, and then Michigan comes into play, and you're like, naturally. And the whole thing with A&M, I'll tell you the sentiment that's around Baton Rouge for some of these players, and I think some in the building. This has not been said to me, but this is just kind of like the general feeling that you have, and I'm sure it's the same at a lot of other places around the SEC, including something like South Carolina, which is, I think South Carolina would want to have players come into the program, buy into the program, be developed in the program. And that's how Shane Beamer would love to run a majority of the players that come into and play for his teams. Like, I think if he had his choice, it would be, we went out and got Dylan Stewart. We went out and got Nick Harbor. We went out and got Lenore Sellers. All of them committed to this program. They believed in it. They've played here. They developed here, and they didn't go anywhere in between. But there's a growing sentiment now around the country when it comes to like overpaying recruits, which is like, if A&M is going to pay you $1.5 million, go get paid at A&M. And because you're not going to play right away, right? And if like in most cases, and we'll see you in 3 years. We'll talk to you again in 2 or 3 years when you're back in the portal, and that's kind of the feeling. There was a joke that was made to me here when I brought the cigar thing, and I was like, damn, it's a LSU lean now, and that was the guy I was really hoping South Carolina was going to get, and they're like, well, you'll get him in 3 years when he's back in the portal, and it's like, that's such a cynical way to look at it, but it's also kind of where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that and to your point, there's a handful of schools, 8 to 10 schools nationally, that are flush with cash. And so they have the ability to go and pay what other schools would consider overpaying for a high school recruit. Yeah. And I think one of the things that you can see is that they also understand there's a chance this kid busts. Now, I'm not talking about Trey Segarra or anybody specifically. I'm just saying in general, if you're going to get a blue chip guy and you commit to saying, yeah, we're going to overpay to put him on the roster, and he might bust, then you have to basically over recruit. Right. So you're stacking your position groups. You're filling up certain rooms based on a bust rate to figure out, hey, if we need, let's take the edge position, for example, since we were talking about South Carolina going after so many like top level talent guys at that position. If you're a team that has a lot of money and you're going to go out and pay a bunch of high school kids to come in and fill up your edge room, then you probably need to overstock it by like at 120 or even 150% to account for the fact that some of them are going to bust or just not going to be able to play and going to transfer out.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they're not quality players,
But it happens all the time.
It just might mean that you stacked your room with a bunch of 4 and 5 stars, and the cream rises to the top, and that's how it shakes out. And you might have a guy that's going to be quality. It's almost like, to use a baseball analogy right now, because we are in the College World Series is about to happen, and I'm watching Dan Jackson get ready. If Mississippi State gets matched up with anybody else in that super regional, they're in Omaha.
Probably,
pick a team.
Yeah.
Pick anybody. They're in Omaha, right? So, in the same way, when we're stacking a room, it may be the case at some schools, like in Oregon or any school in Texas or even Miami, where, hey, we're just going to overfill this room, and this guy might be a starter somewhere else, and it may be an all-conference player, but it just happens to be sitting behind this other kid that is a little bit better. And so that's just it just is what it is. Some of those guys get buried, and then they go and become stars at another school, sometimes from SEC to SEC school. And that's what we've seen happen, Chris, that has created this the quote unquote parity that we have in the league, right? That is that there's a little bit more of a disbursement of talent when guys see, hey, this room is loaded.
Yeah.
That's a rabbit trail that I could go down. Where what's the mindset of competing, and do I want to just bounce, or is it truly I've seen this coaching staff isn't going to play me, so I need to go somewhere else?
Are they even going to the right
that when you're recruiting the portal too?
Yeah, like are some of you even going to the right fits is a question mark I have at this time too, because it's like there's so many things I look at. I'm like Arch Manning when he was coming out of high school, I was like, it was between Georgia, Bama. I think Ole Miss might have been in there, and then in Texas, but I think it was like Georgia, Bama, and Texas for the main. And I was like covering Bama at the time, and I was like, yeah, I mean, he should go to Texas. Like he should 1,000% go to Texas. What is Kirby Smart done with 5-star quarterbacks? He would be fine at Alabama, but I don't think Tommy Reese, I think, was the OC at the time. You're like, he's probably good, and so it's like, go play under Sark and put yourself in position to be in the league. All right, we got to take one quick break. I'm going to get you out of here. I swear to God. I have 2 more questions left for you. They'll be very quick, I promise.
No, you're good. Let's do it.
I do not understand where the music came from. The whole point of that is to have it be silent so we can put the ad reads in there. But anyway, I digress. It is our 10th year anniversary at Locked On next week. We'll all wear party hats and all that kind of stuff. My question for you is this. Twofold. One, does South Carolina get a commit this weekend? If so, who do you think it might be? Are you allowed to say that?
No. Do I think they get one this weekend?
Yeah.
That's tough. There's only 4, which I think makes it a little more difficult. It can't be Amare Patterson
because he's announcing next week.
So take him off the board. I don't foresee a guy like Chris Whitehead being a right on the spot type of dude. So that leaves you McCoy and Clayton Lee. Like I said, I was told earlier this week that it's maybe a little bit of a Georgia lean with McCoy. So if they can roll out the carpet and really impress him, I mean, maybe. I think that Clayton Lee would be the one that I would lean towards if there's going to be one out of this weekend. Now, does that mean that they don't make a really strong push for Amare Patterson? Maybe. Right. Yeah, and that would be the one where it's gotten really muddy, to be honest with you. Like I would have been pretty clear cut on it a couple of weeks ago, but it's just really shaken up. That's recruiting. So it's fluid. I don't know when this is going out. I guess it's going out today because the recruiting weekend, right? But like even so, like in the time it takes you to edit and put things together and get it out there, something could change. Like I could get a phone call.
Don't jinx it, Rob.
That could be positive. I just said that I wasn't sure about a couple of these guys, but that's just how recruiting works. So I wouldn't say with confidence that I think anybody's recruiting, that anybody's committing this weekend.
I think some of it too is that like getting in good with some of these players for the long, like the long play. I think the name last week, like Nate Kamba, the kid from a week ago,
no doubt about it.
Didn't commit, but it felt like you made a lot of headway there.
And he's going to Auburn this weekend, and I think that's the battle. So I think you almost figure that one out, where I think that South Carolina put themselves in a really good position, And so if they can stay in position after he goes to Auburn, then there it is. But he's going to get a back-to-back weekend comparison between South Carolina and Auburn and get to make his decision based on that.
Yeah. All right. I told you we'd be here for 20 minutes. It's minute 30, so of course that's my bad. But last question, most important question of the day. It's Friday. World Cup starts tonight. Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for Team USA soccer in the World Cup? Does it move you at all, or is it just kind of like, yeah?
It's like a 3. I mean, the College World Series is probably dwarfing it for me right now.
That's fair. Yeah.
There's a ton going on this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Stanley Cup Finals, we got the NBA Finals, we got the College World Series.
Yeah.
Obviously, the World Cup. There's a lot of stuff happening.
Taylor Swift better not be in any of them. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, she's decided to be a Knicks fan, so
dude, people get so mad at everything she does. I'm so glad that that's not me. I mean, I'm not. I wish I had $1 bazillion. I would learn to grow thicker skin. The other thing
I don't care if she's there or not. I just want one of the 19 Baja men to be there, and that really good.
That's the best skit, dude. That's the best skit. Oh man, I posted on my Instagram yesterday. That was so funny. All right, last question too. I know I told you only 2, but who do you got winning Omaha?
I don't want to say it. I think it's got to be Georgia. If I'm putting my money on somebody, their ability to hit the baseball has just I've eaten my words all year in saying they were going to flame out, and they haven't. So I don't know what else to say at this point. I think I got to shift and back up and give it to them. But we'll see. It's a strong contingent. Who's winning Omaha? The SEC, Chris. That's where we're going to go.
I've been banging the drum for Georgia all year long. I think that they finally run into Texas this weekend. The interesting thing about Georgia, man, that no one seemed to bring up until now is, dude, 23-7 in the regular season, went 3-0 in regionals or the conference tournament. So it's 26-7. They beat Mississippi State twice, 28-7. Anytime you're at an 800% or 800 winning percentage, it's incredible. They haven't played Georgia hasn't played Oklahoma, Bama, or Texas. Any of those teams on that side, which is crazy. All right, I kept you too long, brother. We appreciate you. Tell everyone where they can find your stuff, and we will have you on next week, whether you like it or not.
At Rob Williams GCP is me personally, so you can find everything there. Inside the Gamecocks, I'm on staff at the Big Spur, and coming soon, fourquarterfriday.com, the new rival site for high school sports in the state of South Carolina. We'll be covering everything that happens. We're live on Fridays at 9 a.m. And that's at 4 Quarter SC on X. Got it. That's all of them.
You're the man.